Oh, we did it. Okay, Scott, it's adding you.
Oh God.
There we
There we
go.
go. Wow, that was too much of me.
How are
How
you?
are you? Now it's far enough away where I got to put on my glasses.
Do you
There we
got
go.
some
You got some
headphones?
headphones? I do. I'm hoping so. I got 40%. Hopefully it'll hold out because the iPhone you can either have it charging or use high headphones.
You should be
But it
okay.
should be okay. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Kim, how are you? Hey, Marianne. Steve's
All right, you
watching
like
my
that better?
husband. Yes, I'm not echoing. That's perfect.
Okay.
That is perfect. All right, Scott. It's a pleasure meeting you.
It's so nice to meet you finally.
Oh my goodness, I know. Now we
I'm
got to meet
trying
in
to
person.
remember. I'm trying to remember like the first time I met you and like how that happened and it had something to do with I know you were a cancer survivor and
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit.
Yes.
Like, do you own your own CrossFit gym?
Yes, I do. Here in
Okay.
Indiana.
So that caught my eye because that's the coolest thing. I love
Oh, well,
CrossFit.
thank you. Thank you.
So
So
that really captured my attention.
awesome. Well, I'm so glad you found me. I'm so glad that, thank you, Freddie. I'm so glad that you friend request me and we just became brothers and sisters through Facebook.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So we got hey Ivy, hey Monica. Okay, so we have some viewers. So and I've been posting and tagging you. So hopefully your people would you join and watch us as well.
Okay.
So
We'll see.
guys, a lot of my lung cancer family is watching, and some members and former members are watching. So guys, this is Scott Baker. As you heard a little bit, we met actually through Facebook. Um, Scott is going to tell you his amazing story, all the trials and tribulations he went through, and he's an overcomer. And so, like he said, "Hey, Bobby," and like he said that I guess what caught his attention was that me, lung cancer survivor, and doing CrossFit. I own my own CrossFit, and also he's going to talk about a book. He wrote a book, and I want you guys, I want him to share that, and I want him to talk about that, and I want all you guys to go out there and buy it, get it, and read it. I'm so darn busy that I started reading it, and it's like the only time I could read it is when I'm on a plane or traveling somewhere where I can sit down and read it, because if it's
Yeah.
not my business and then doing my Facebook live, and then also,
Yep.
Scott, I sell paparazzi jewelry. So before we went live, I was selling some online. My grandbaby.
You have a
Um,
little granddaughter who had a birthday yesterday.
yes, yes, yes. And Saturday's her birthday party. So tomorrow I have to clean up.
Yep.
I have to start cooking. I'm like,
I
so I
get
am
it.
like so busy. But
I
yes,
know.
guys. So hey, Cindy. Hello from Texas. Thank you, honey. And Linda. Thanks, Linda, for watching. And Beto. So a little bit about Scott. I'm gonna read a little bit that he sent me, but I'm gonna let him take it away because this is about him. So he had told me that he battled cancer not once, not twice, not three times, guys, but four times. And so he's gonna share that his story. Stage 3B non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and then he did have a stem cell transplant, and then he got diagnosed with what is it, primary central nervous system lymphoma.
Brain
And
lymphoma.
oh, is it brain lymphoma?
That's what it
Okay.
is. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
brain lymphoma.
fancy name
Oh,
for brain lymphoma.
okay. See, I'm just trying to read what you sent me.
Yeah.
They only expected him to live 12 to 18 months, and guys, look at him. He's here with us today. So, Scott, this is your time to shine. Take it away and share your story with the audience.
Okay. Boy, it's long. I'm
That's all
I'm
right.
September is going to be 20 years since the beginning,
Woo!
which
Awesome.
is
Amen.
awesome.
Yes.
So
Amen.
in September of '99, I finally got to the hospital. I was having abdominal pains for months, but I was 29 years old. I was lifting weights. I was, having a good time. Who would think, I finally, when I got to a doctor, I was telling them that I had an ulcer or something. What else could it be? They were throwing meds at me, didn't work. Of course, finally, after about almost 2 months, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, said, all right, we got to go, because the pain was so intense. I was on my knees and elbows on my living room floor in the middle of the night all the time. So we went and then finally got a CAT scan, and there was a tumor. I had an obstructed bowel
Oh.
leading to pain. So that explained why I had pain after I ate all the time. So I had a bowel resection surgery. A surgeon that had operated on everyone in our family at that point. I trusted him. He came in, he says, this is very treatable, you'll be fine. Then that was it for me. As far as I was concerned, I was cured. I just had to go through some treatments. I had no idea, really. But in fact, I did just go through some treatments. And as I was laying there in the hospital, somebody handed me Lance Armstrong's book, his first book. It's not about the bike. I didn't know anything about bike riding, but he was a survivor and he was active. He was an athlete. So I read it cover to cover and I was inspired. And I thought to myself, well, I just have to get back to the gym. If I get back to the gym, I'm going to be fine. And, but it would be, well, you know what? After the surgery, things got worse because basically the way he described it to me was you take the main tumor out, all the little ones that were throughout my abdomen had more of what they needed to grow. So it started really attacking me, which is alarming because I thought, well, geez, I should be on the mend. And instead I was getting a lot worse. But I finally got the chemo, had my first chemo, and I swore I was cured that day. I mean, the pain was gone. I hadn't eaten in weeks. I could not eat. And all of a sudden on the way home from chemo, I was telling my father, like, I'm ready to eat. And he couldn't believe it. He was begging me to eat. And so we got through that. And after a couple of treatments, I was back to work and I was back to the gym. And then, heck, I had lost probably 75 pounds.
Oh.
Because I was a weightlifter and everything. All of a sudden I wasn't even eating and I was just wasting away. And so we got through it, and I had, I think, 6 cycles of, then it was just CHOP, now it's R-CHOP, because now there's an immunotherapy called Rituxan that they add to it.
Okay.
But we got through it. Then I had radiation for 20 days, and I went about my life. I had some effects, but I couldn't complain. I was doing my thing, working out, playing softball, playing golf, enjoying life. Got married a year later. Maybe she should have run because we've been through this 4 times now. But we got married. Sadly, my dad was diagnosed 6 months after he walked out of my last treatment with me. And he was diagnosed with stage 4 renal cell. He passed away 6 months after that. But he was the best man at my wedding, so I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
And then he was diagnosed a month later. But we got through it. Sue and I had our first boy maybe 3 years after that, then our second. And then I had a recurrence. I started having pains in my abdomen again. But this time I didn't wait around. I went to the doctor. I said, I don't know, it's this chronic thing. And they scanned me right away, and sure enough, the lymphoma was back in my abdomen. So we had a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. And I went through, it was definitely a harsher chemo. It was, made me sick. It wasn't fun, but we got through it. And then I had my first stem cell transplant. So that was May of 2007. Well, that was rough because we had the 2 little ones. Well, I mean, on my wife, I was kind of laying around trying to get better.
Right.
But she weathered that storm. And then kind of life as usual. I really the thing about me was I really felt like, wow, I've gotten tapped on the shoulder a couple times here.
Right.
I need to do something. I need to, do something for other people. I was enjoying my life, but I wasn't doing that much. But I had a real empathy suddenly. Like I spent so much time in the chemo room around all these people, and I loved them. I loved hearing their stories, and
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't stand that they were sick. But I still really didn't do anything. I just went back to my life, and then of course I started falling apart in 2011. Just a lot of weird things,
Mm-hmm.
choking a lot and biting my tongue, and it progressed slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was. I had a lot of infections from the previous transplant. I would get sinus infections constantly, so I was always on antibiotics. I never felt too good, but things were getting worse, and I really didn't know why until, oh, it must have been almost fall, end of summer.
Mm-hmm.
Really, things were falling apart, and we started going to the doctor and knowing, there's nothing wrong. We don't see anything wrong, and okay, well, there's definitely something wrong. And then I finally really started. Well, the day after Thanksgiving in 2011, my wife took me to the emergency room, and clearly they understood there was something wrong. I would fall over to my left, and I was unstable. I was
Mm-hmm.
slurring. But
Mm.
they're like, geez, maybe you're depressed. I'm like, depressed? I can't walk a straight line, and I'm slurring. So they sent me home, and by it was January 24th, I guess. I went. My sister ended up taking me because I could no longer construct an email. I was at work. I typed her an email, and I recognized it was garbage. I could see it was garbage, but I couldn't fix it. So then I hit send after I thought I fixed it, and she called me and said, "I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'm taking you to the emergency room." So I went because I knew something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, I told the guy, and the guy that came in through the glass looked at me and said, "You were here a few months ago." And he described my symptoms. I said, "Yeah." He said, "What now?" I said, "Now it's like I'm stroking out. I'm really having a rough time." So they did a scan, and sure enough, they found a brain tumor. So we were, we were off and running. They decided, I knew by that time I'd been through cancer twice in my dad's, so
Mm-hmm.
they needed to get cells. I knew that. So they were going to do brain surgery like in 2 days, so I stayed in the hospital. Kind of good thing I did because I ended up having a seizure in the hospital. It was small. They handled it, but I was there, so that was good.
Yeah.
And then my sister helped me out with a surgeon because she had worked with the hospital for years. She had worked there. And I liked him, and I felt comfortable. And I always had a lot of faith that I was going to get well. I just did.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, this is supposed to tell me something. I'm not actually going to die. So I had the brain surgery. And I remember the surgeon's response when he came into recovery
Mm-hmm.
felt a little in between negative and positive. Kind of like I felt like I saw something there, but he was really down. And he says, "Geez, you've got, you had this tumor. It was this, 3/4 of an inch diameter." And I said, "It's lymphoma, right?" And he says, "Well, as a matter of fact, yeah. How did you know that?" Well, I didn't. I assumed because I had lymphoma.
Right.
I had no idea. I didn't know anything about brain tumors. So I lightened up, and he put his hand on my arm and said, it's not good. And I'm like, "No, I really think it is. I mean, I survived lymphoma twice. We got to get
Mm-hmm.
the treatment to the tumor," and he was like, "Well, okay." So I went home after like 2 days, and I started researching. And that's when I went to medical journals because I'd done so much research in the past for my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting these abstracts, and it wasn't good. Every single abstract, there was a sentence in the first paragraph that said the prognosis is dismal. And with treatment, you could expect 12 to 18 months. Now I was looking on my iPad down in my family room. My wife and two kids were in bed because I was on steroids, so I was up all night.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, they're 5 and 7. Like, no way. There's just no way. So I just kept looking and looking and looking. And I found a couple of good case studies where this woman, Lisa DeAngelis at Sloan, was starting to be able to help people. So that felt good.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't tell you much. They lived so long or whatever. So, okay. Well, so I put it down. I stopped researching. I couldn't take it anymore. Well, there was a couple days later, I was putting my then 7-year-old son to bed, and he started asking me about it.
Mm.
And he got upset. And I'm like, oh, man. He wanted to know if I'd be all right. So now, I told him, yeah, there's a treatment. There's something out there. And then I went back to my room and I just put my head in my hands and cried, which I don't do. Or I didn't do. Now I do. I didn't then. And my wife was kind of surprised. And, I told her about this conversation I had with my little boy. And, well, an idea popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where. It just bang, it was there. I picked up the iPad, I went to Google, and I said PCNSL survivors. And I meet a 28-year survivor's wife, ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk to him, but I talked to her. She still ran a website because it was a miracle that this man survived 28 years ago. I also found a guy named Barry Gates. He was a 10-year survivor. And I was talking to him the next day. And
Wow.
that was all I needed. And then he had started this, it was a group called the Brain Trust. So it worked through email, but now I was connected to survivors all over the world.
Good.
Changed everything.
Yes.
Changed absolutely everything. Now, oh my God, I'm gonna beat this. So, and above that, a friend of mine, Rosalie, she had it 2 years prior. Now I knew her for years. I knew her husband since I was 13. She called me up and said, look, this is exactly what I went through. I got the same prognosis. I'm back to work. I'm doing fine. And I was off and running then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went, but, I made some missteps. I knew that the best treatment was at Sloan. But I thought, wow, I've got these two little boys, and my wife, she's got to work because now I'm out of work. Who knows what's going to happen? What are we going to do? I got to stay local. So I stayed local. I got remission. I had inpatient chemo by that point every other week. So I had 5 weeks of chemo, and I was in remission. So that was great. By May, I'm cancer-free. So we knew, based on my research, that there was more. So my wife and I would talk to the doctor and say, look, there's more to do. We don't just stop there. And it was ignored, but then I blacked out for 3 months. So my last memory was Father's Day, and I felt like I woke up on September 15th going to Sloan. So very strange. I was walking and talking, but no memories at all of the summer of 2012.
Wow.
I was blacked right out. So she was, my wife was dealing with a zombie. I couldn't remember for more than 10, 15 seconds. So you're just a zombie. And somehow she found a way to get me admitted to Sloan. So now that's where a whole new life began for me, because I kind of woke up there. I started to remember, and I just felt safe. These people that were taking care of me, it was like a different world. It was, I just felt okay. Like I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And I'd walk around the hall. Well, I had to have people watching me because I would get lost. But I would get out of my room because I was a mover. I always had to move. That's how I was going to beat this thing. So, people would walk with me and talk to me, and I just couldn't believe this world I woke up in. Like everybody cared about me. I didn't know them. They knew me, turns out, for maybe 3 weeks, but I couldn't remember it. But they were taking great care of me. And so as it went on, I ended up having 7 of those weeks on floor M7. And I had just the greatest nurses, the greatest people taking care of me. And I ended up, slowly coming back to life. Like I remember my third treatment, I met my roommate, and my wife, I think she was parking the car or something, and I met my roommate, and I remembered, like I unpacked my things, and like 15 minutes later, I remember his name. This was a big development, so I got all excited, and I texted her. I'm like, oh my God, I remember his name, and so that was, really forward progress. But it was it was rough for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't remember anything. It took me probably 4 weeks before I could, if I left my room, I could find my way back.
Wow.
So it was slow. But then in the fourth week, which felt like the third to me, I ended up meeting this family. My friend Jack and his family. He came crashing into the room at 3 a.m. because it's not like anybody's sleeping. So, and I remember sitting there laughing, going, God, you know what? That is annoying, but wow, I hope they do that for me, if I'm in that shape, which I was a few weeks earlier. I just couldn't remember. And so his family gets there bright and early, and I listened to his mom and his daughter, and they still didn't diagnose him. And I just listened to him, and I became friends with him. And as luck would have it, they would set us up as roommates each week thereafter. So we became really close. I mean, we're stuck there. We've got brain cancer, and her family was always there, or his family was always there. And man, that was a lifesaver to have. I had a family there, so my wife she would always drive me down, stay the first night, make sure she had to help me through all the questions and everything, because it was like you were being readmitted every time. She always had to help me because I didn't know, and but she could rest kind of easy. She knew I had these people.
Right.
Him and I used to. He was unconscious for the first week. Like I didn't get to meet him. I met his family, and then a couple of weeks later, I got to meet him. Apparently, when he came to, his family told him, "There's this guy Scott Baker. He says after 2 treatments, you're going to get up out of that bed. You're going to be fine," because he hadn't walked in like 6 weeks. He hadn't been on his feet. So clearly, that was not out of any medical knowledge that I had. It just kind of worked for me. So anyway, the doctor must have been thinking, who the heck is this Scott Baker guy? But lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, I saw my friend take his first steps. That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Awesome.
That was, and I was I loved his family so much. I called his daughter. I'm like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what I'm looking at. Your dad is on his feet. And it'd been 6 weeks or so.
Wow.
So we got close. We had, it was as good of experience as you could have for being stuck in the hospital. But it affected me a lot because I walked around and around every day on that floor. On that floor, there were 42 to 44 patients on any given day, all with some form of brain cancer. So all of us were disconnected. We were lost. Like, you just look, I can tell now when I look at somebody, that's what people saw with me, because everybody said, you look so much better. And I felt like, did I become a werewolf? Like I looked the same. But I started to understand it as I was coming back to life. I could see the disconnectedness because they're walking, but they're not sure of what's going on or what's happening. And that's where I was. So I really have a really deep empathy for people going through any kind of struggle.
Right.
The thing that happened on M7 was we were people from all over the world. People from all over the world who had CNS certainly came to Sloan because that's where you were seeing in the journals that they were having success. And I found that we inspired each other, we encouraged each other without even having to say anything because we didn't speak a common language. To me, that was life-changing. You know, it just, where do you find that? You know,
Mm-hmm.
we cared so much about each other. We didn't know anything about each other. We just knew we wanted each other to get back to their family.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody helped. You know, some days I was having a good day, some days somebody else was, and I was having a bad day, and we could see that. We would help each other. It just, it was a whole new world. But then I had to go in for transplant. So I went upstairs to the 8th floor, and I had to be in isolation to have my second stem cell transplant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in a room for 28 days.
Mm.
That was tough because I'm a people person, and now
Yeah.
I'm stuck. But lo and behold, people come through my door all day long. And I realized even if it's only for 2 minutes, I can have a great experience with this person. And it got me through the 28 days. I mean, there's great stories. That's why I wrote a book. When I was in isolation, I was still keeping a journal for the first few days before I really got out of it. But
Mm-hmm.
on New Year's Day, 2013, so I had to miss Christmas that year. I had to go in on December 18th. So
Okay.
I remember telling my kids that I'm missing Christmas this one year for the many. And that's what I told them, and they bought into it. Thank God. And I went there, and New Year's Day, I must have woke up in the morning, and I had one sentence in my journal when I went back and looked. It said, I'm going to write a book about this experience.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what it was more of the people and the connections that I made, the people that got me through it on every level, you know, physical, emotional,
Right.
mental, every level, spiritual. I mean, all these people that came in, and I had these stories I felt like I needed to share. If you never went through cancer, maybe you'd see things a little different, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
the stories would make you feel good. They have to
Mm-hmm.
make you happy, I
Mm-hmm.
think. I mean,
I agree.
so I wanted to write about those stories. So I did. And when I got home, and it took a long time to put myself back together. But one thing that I could do was write those stories. So I started writing, and I would write a story in a file, save it, and the next day write another story. And when I had a whole bunch of them, lo and behold, I go to a fundraiser and I meet Janine Camarada, who she had written a book. I picked it up, I bought it
Mm-hmm.
because it was for her charity, her foundation. And I looked in the book. It said this, you can contact her, and I contacted her. A couple of weeks later, I was at a coffee shop talking about my stories, and she said she'd help me, and she did.
Awesome.
She worked. She had to work really hard. I had no idea how to put together a book, but she worked with me, and it just was a great experience. The interesting thing was when I went into brain cancer. At that time in my life, I was kind of looking for an answer. I was looking for a way to, I didn't know how to explain it. I thought it was happiness, but I was pretty happy. I had fun a lot. And what I realized through it all is I didn't have any peace. Like, it wasn't
Mm.
okay with me. That was the problem. Now, that manifested in anger toward others very often, but the problem was in me.
Mm-hmm.
So the second I found out I had a brain tumor, I literally said, oh my God, this is going to be the answer. Now, I don't know how that answer is going to come, but I think this is going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I wrote the stories and I read them that I realized that all these events were the perfect person at the perfect time to show me something. And it just kept building. It was just the
Mm-hmm.
most amazing thing. And when I put it all together, I'm like, well, no wonder. Because when I came out of the hospital, I'm like, I see the world differently. Things look different.
Mm-hmm.
And I respond differently. And I didn't understand it until I put all that together. I'm like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, these people all showed me little pieces of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote it down. And
Good.
I really got inspired when, let's see, so I got out of the hospital in January 2013. In November of 2014, 2 years after Jack and I hadn't seen each other, my family and his daughter and her 5 kids and his mom and everybody met in Disney. So we
Oh,
had a vacation.
awesome. Oh, that's
So, and that was the
great.
first time that we'd seen each other outside of a hospital. And it was an amazing vacation. It was like we knew each other our whole lives.
Oh,
But
that's
we
great.
knew, because it was this amazing thing, because we went through something together. We
Mm-hmm.
did know each other, even though we didn't know all the facts.
Mm-hmm.
We knew who we were. So that was just excellent. And now every year in the fall, Jack and I used to sit in the room and watch Yankee games and stuff and talk about going and having a beer and a steak.
Mm-hmm.
And now every year in the fall, when I go down for my doctor appointment, we have a beer and a steak,
Oh, that's
which is,
great.
it's just, I mean, I mean, we're both still alive. It's a miracle. It's just really, really, really cool.
Yes.
After I got out of the hospital, while I was in the hospital, I was searching for, this time I was going to do it. I was going to, I was going to get involved. I was going to advocate. I was going to share my story. I was going to do whatever I could. So I started looking for ways to do it while I was sitting there in the hospital, and I found American Cancer Society and Leukemia Lymphoma Society, Livestrong, which was right up my alley because it was
Uh-huh.
a workout with cancer survivors. So I connected with them. I connected with all those groups. I started Livestrong, a matter of weeks. I went to physical therapy when I got out of the hospital. I was down 65 pounds. I was
Oh,
just bones.
wow.
So like I couldn't do a plank. Like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't support myself at all. So I went to Livestrong, absolutely fell in love with that. And I've never left. I've been a mentor for 6 years now.
Awesome.
2 sessions a year. They're 12-week sessions. It's absolutely free to cancer survivors. And there's just something about being together because we
Yeah.
understand each other.
Yeah.
And now we're helping each other get back on our
Mm-hmm.
feet. And I just love it. The other thing that I'm doing, I'm starting a 501c3. So
Oh.
I had this vision and I thought it's kind of funny. I woke up the one morning and said, I'm going to write a book. Another morning I woke up and I had this whole complete vision of what I didn't even know what to call it. It was like a survivorship center, like a wellness center, somewhere where people could go, where cancer survivors come together, they share information, but there's exercise, there's nutrition, there's
Mm-hmm.
some kind of meetings and stuff with healthcare professionals because navigating healthcare is complicated.
Yeah.
Insurance, all these things. I had this complete vision and I thought I had this completely unique idea. And it turned to find out friend of mine starts volunteering
Uh-huh.
at a place called the Hope Club in Latham, which is a 10 or 12-minute drive from my house.
Mm-hmm.
It existed.
Oh.
So I decided I'm going to start raising money and funding this great place where they have these exactly what I imagine. It exists.
Awesome.
They have it.
Yes.
So between that and Livestrong and there's a Sean Strong Foundation that I fundraise for friends of mine who lost their
Mm-hmm.
little boy.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm finding ways, just like you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, it's a very similar thing, which is why you stood out to me. It's just, you're doing what I want to do. So
Awesome.
I'm following in your footsteps, hopefully.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness, you make me feel so special. I
Well, you are.
thank you. Thank you. The lung cancer community, my brothers and sisters, they know that it's, when they know that's a passion, but when I speak to just an average Joe and, they don't know anything about lung cancer or anything about cancer because
Right.
maybe it hasn't hit their family yet. And when I start speaking, they say, "Oh my goodness, you're like glowing. You're like shining. You
Right.
you have this glow. It's like we could see it in your
Right.
face, the passion." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, because I want
Yeah.
more of us to live longer.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
don't want to lose no more. We just
No
lost, I
more.
think, in our lung cancer community, I think we lost two. And I think
Yep.
yesterday, I think we
I
lost
saw
two.
your posts. Yeah.
And I was like,
Like
"Oh
you
my
had
God."
posted recently, there's been people and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. Well, no, yesterday I didn't post because one, his name was Gerald. He was a 8+ year lung cancer survivor.
Yeah.
So I didn't know him, but we lost him. And there was someone else, and I can't remember who. Probably one of my lung sisters that are watching will let me know. But
Yeah.
um, but Scott, my lung cancer sister Melissa, she wants to know. She asked a question: do you know why you lost your memory? So that time gap that you didn't remember and you woke up, but you were walking and doing all that. She wants to know: did they ever find out what
Yeah.
caused it? Okay,
So
can you?
the brain cancer came back. Only this time it was a deep brain diffuse tumor, which is it it seems like for what happened to me, you would think I had a something the size of a pineapple in my brain.
Oh wow.
But on an MRI, it looked like if you took a white piece of paper and you sprinkled pepper,
Mm-hmm.
it's a diffuse tumor. It took me out. I mean, it's hard to believe, but it literally was taking me right out. I wouldn't have. What would have happened if my wife hadn't gotten me up to feed me? Because by the time she got me to the hospital, I was sleeping 23 hours a day. She
Mm-hmm.
would get me up and feed me. I would not. I didn't. I would have starved to death because I would have never got up. When she would take me downstairs to feed me, I would say I'm going back to bed. She'd find me an hour later somewhere else. I couldn't find my way back to my room in my house that I'd
Wow.
been in for years and years. So that was the disease. After I had my transplant, the drugs that they used, the cocktail that they used, all three of those drugs, and it was 8 consecutive days of chemo, all three penetrated that blood brain barrier. And I went back almost to that. So when I came home, everyone was pretty surprised. They're like, what happened? You're back to what you were. And then I'm like, well, no, now I think it's the treatment. And I
Mm-hmm.
believed I was going to get better. I
Mm-hmm.
really believed it. I know it? I felt like I did, but I felt like this is definitely the treatment because I was doing very well. And then they hit me with those drugs and I just went downhill.
Yeah.
And the doctors weren't, they were like, geez, we're not so sure. I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure. I'm always telling doctors things for some reason. But, and sure enough, it
Mm-hmm.
was. I would say I plateaued. So I was like a stay-at-home dad for like from January to, well, when the kids went back, Labor Day, when they went back to school. And I would say in the last 3 months of that, I kind of plateaued. I'd gotten better and then didn't really get any better.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put the kids on the bus and I came back in the house, I was like, huh, what do I do now? And I'm like, I got to go back to work. So I had to go, I went to Sunnyview to get assessed and all these things. And he rendered me, based on the testing, and I knew I did poorly, he rendered me disabled, which that was the first time I felt depression about the disease. Like
Mm.
I felt like I'm going to get better all the time, but that was
Mm-hmm.
like, whew, whoa, disabled. Wow, I was 43.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that. And I thought, it was this beautiful sunny day. I walk out of that hospital, that center. By the time I got to my car, I'm like, you know what? Today I am, because I couldn't pass those tests. I knew I did really poorly, but I think I'm going to get better. I really do. So I decided, he asked me how I wanted him to write it up. I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
could you write it up so I can go back to work? But there's a chance it might not work out because he has such and such. And so that's what he did. And then I got back to work. It took a month and a half worth of paperwork. By October 15th, I went back to work and I was scared to death. I mean,
Mm.
because more, because at that point I couldn't be embarrassed anymore. So if I was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I couldn't do the work, I'm an engineer and I knew I had lost my numbers. Like the very morning that, this one morning when I was talking to my roommate Jack's mom, I realized that morning I couldn't add two and two. And I thought, oh my God, I'm an engineer. By that time I thought I'm going to survive this, but what am I going to do? What am I ever going
Yeah.
to contribute? So when I said, I'm going to go back to work, but I was scared to prove to myself that I was disabled. So that's what scared me. And turned out, because my boss was really understanding and he let me baby step, that things started coming together slowly. And
Awesome.
every little victory, like I teared up in my little cubicle times
Yeah.
when I solved the problem, because that was one of the things they said in my assessment. You cannot solve, you can no longer solve problems. You can't learn and you can't solve problems. So that, when I solved like an IT problem, and I was never a real IT guy, I teared up. I'm like, oh my God, I knew how to do that 2 years ago, and I remembered. So it started coming around, and progressively, I've been back to work, about like 5 or 6 years, almost 6 years.
Oh, good.
I kept taking progressively, more difficult jobs, kind of forcing me to do more,
Right.
So, and it's the only way to put the pieces back together. And I tell people that go through this, any kind of brain injury, the brain will rewire, but you have to, just like a muscle, you add resistance, muscle grows. Your brain, the same thing. You have to apply resistance, which means using it. And that's more exhausting than doing clean and presses at your gym.
Yeah.
using I'd rather do cleans than use my brain, like when I'm tired or something. Like
Yeah.
that was exhausting, but it's oh my God. I mean, the fact that my boss gave me a chance, took me back.
That was
Otherwise, I
awesome.
never would have been. I would have never came this far,
Yes.
ever.
That was
Because
awesome.
without forcing myself to use my brain, it wouldn't have gotten better.
That was
So
awesome. God bless him.
yeah,
Goodness.
I mean, he.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, do you have your book so you could show it, or what's the name of your book so
Oh,
the viewers
I
could?
meant to have it. I didn't bring it downstairs. I'm
I
downstairs
got it.
because my kids will make noise.
I got a surprise
Oh,
for you.
I was hoping you would do that. Oh, look at
Hi,
her.
mira,
Oh,
Leanna,
everybody
look,
talks about her
look.
cheeks.
Yeah, say hi.
Everybody
Look
loves
at
her
that
cheeks. Hi
stud.
there. Hi.
Say
Ah, there she is.
hi.
Happy birthday.
Oh, say thank you. He said happy
Oh, she's
birthday
the
to you,
best.
Mama. Thank you, honey.
So you have
Thank you.
five.
I
You have
have
five
5
of your
kids.
own.
Yes,
And
and
how
this
many
is my
grandchildren?
granddaughter. This is my
Your
first
first?
one.
Okay.
My only,
Wow.
yeah, first one. When
So you
I
have
was told I wasn't going to
three
meet, I
girls
got,
and two boys?
yes,
Wow.
yes. I was told that I was never going to meet any grandkids, and here I am.
Yeah, see? There you go.
Yes,
That is
my
awesome.
pride
See,
and
that's
joy.
why I love your story. Look at that.
Thank you.
And you'll meet
Yeah,
many of them.
yes,
You'll
yes,
see
I
her go to
will.
college.
Amen. I already spoke all those words into existence. I'm going to
Yeah,
meet her kids. I'm going to be the
that's,
oldest lung cancer survivor living. Oh, she doesn't
yes,
want to go. She wants to stay with me. You don't
good.
want to go?
Yeah, you
You don't
will.
want to go?
I tell everybody I'm going to live forever. They ask me why
Yes,
I eat like I do and everything. I'm like, well, I'm going to live forever. That's why.
exactly.
And they laugh, but
Exactly.
I do the things I can do,
Yes,
What can I
yes.
do? I can eat good. I can live
Exactly.
a healthy life.
That's
Try to
right. That's right.
minimize stress.
Yeah, exactly. So talk about your book. What's the name of your book so our viewers could go and buy it?
So my book is called No One Rises Alone. And because all these people, it was literally an army of people that carried me through.
Yes.
And the greatest thing is when I woke up that morning with this vision of this wellness center thing, well, I had a vision of what the sign would look like. And it was a strong hand reaching down for a weaker hand, pulling it up. So 4 or 5 years later, I had met a girl named Laura in Livestrong. She was a breast cancer survivor. And she started doing art again right around when I was getting ready to publish the book. And I'm like, oh my God, you're a great artist. I said, I've got this idea, and I wrote her a couple of sentences, and she painted this exactly what I had in my mind, and she texted it to me and said, is this good? I said, this is perfect. So I put that on the cover of the book. And then she had another painting that I put in the book that I just thought was so powerful because it represents what cancer and its treatments do to people.
Right.
And she overcame it. And I said, what would you call that painting if you named it? And she said, Rise. So I talked to my Janine, my editor, And she goes, how about no one rises alone? I said, that's perfect because it's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm trying to say.
exactly.
That's the
That's
moral of the story. So the
yes,
subtitle is What Almost Dying Taught Me About Living. And that's what it is. All of those experiences taught me about living. So
yes.
I live differently than I used to.
Oh yeah, I think
I
we
mean,
all do.
some things are the same, but
Yeah.
I see things differently. I sometimes appear selfish because there's certain things I'm just not going to do because it
Hmm.
raises my blood pressure. It makes me crazier. I think it's not for the greater good. I'm just
Right.
not going to waste my energy because I don't know how you do with your energy, but you look like you do pretty well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
energy is still like after 6 years, it's waning. So I
Right.
kind of ration it. I have to be smart about the way I use it.
Right.
So I don't do everything the world thinks I need to be doing all the time, I guess.
Right.
You
No,
know,
and yeah, of course.
I'm not trying to
And
keep up with anybody. I'm trying to live the best
exactly.
life I can.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, but
I
that's what I learned.
but I like to live the moment. So
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
spontaneously tell my husband, "Oh, well, let's go here. Let's go there. Vacation, weekend getaway." And he's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
hold on." But that's what he loves about
Right.
me because I'll just, say, "Okay, we're gonna go here. We're gonna go
Yeah.
there." And
It's perfect.
so I do, and I'm always traveling. Now I do travel a lot for lung cancer advocacy. So
Yeah.
I tend to go a lot to DC to, I guess, supposed to go in a couple of weeks, but I haven't gotten the information. Working with um, working with biomarker testing with this company that they found me. They did a Google and they saw my video I did for longevity. So
Yeah.
they're supposed to be flying me out there, but I emailed them today. I said, I don't have, I haven't got my flight information or where I'm
Yeah.
staying at. I go, what time
Yeah.
I'm leaving? I said, and she goes, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I have someone get to you right away. So I haven't checked my email, but I'm supposed to be going in 2 weeks. And then in July, I am going back to DC with Lung Cancer Alliance. And what they do is they go up to the Hill and you talk
Yeah.
to your representative. So I'll be representing, of course, because I'm in Indiana, even though I'm like 30 minutes, 25 minutes away from Chicago. I'm in the state of
Yeah. I
Indiana.
gathered that you were actually
Yeah,
in Indiana, but yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. But we're Chicagoland. We're considered Chicagoland. But
Yep.
so we're considered metropolitan area where my lung cancer sisters that live in Illinois, they're considered the suburbs of Chicago. I'm considered
Okay.
metropolitan area because I'm in Indiana. I don't know, that's weird.
Yeah.
So I'm going, me and another lung cancer sister from Wisconsin, Erin, I think she's watching or she might have gotten off. So we're going to DC in July. So she's going to represent Wisconsin, of course. I'm going to represent Indiana. But I told them if there's other states that you want me to go up and talk, I said I'll be more than happy to, because they know
Yeah.
I got a mouth. They know I
Yeah.
don't back down. I'll let them know straight up how I feel, what they should be doing.
Right.
So we're doing that. And then
They.
since for my lung cancer, I'm ALK positive. That's my mutation. Um, is ALK positive. So then we're having a summit in Atlanta, Georgia. That's in August. So me and another lung cancer sister, Crystal, from the suburbs of Chicago, we're flying out. And then Stephanie, I think she's watching. And I think if you're watching, Stephanie, are you from the New York area? I think she's from the East Coast. So we're all flying in and we're going to Atlanta, Georgia for the ALK Summit. And that's just for my type of G mutation. Oh, Melissa, you're going? All right, babe, I'll see you then. And so this is my first one, my first Lung Cancer Alliance Summit. So
That's
then,
exciting.
yeah, it is. But the one in
Yeah.
Georgia, we are talking about it and we're like, oh my God, it is going to be so damn hot in Georgia in August,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so, but we're going to be there for just a couple of days. Like I said, it's a weekend thing. So we're going to get there early, see if our room's ready, check in, do a little bit of sightseeing, and then go register, whatever. Then the next day is, I forgot how it is, but no, I'm flying in early. So I'm going to be tired. So I'm flying in early to check in. And then the summit is all day. Oh my God, it's going to be crazy. So, but I'll make it work because I like to sleep on the plane anyway. So I do a
Yeah.
lot. A
Yeah,
lot
it
of that
looks
stuff.
like it. I've been reading up on you. That's
Yeah,
good. I want to do a lot. I
yes, well,
want to
you
do
do
it.
a lot.
I'm
You
I'm
do it.
still working, so I've got 6 more years before I can retire. So I got to do that. But I'm doing as much as I can.
Yeah, there
I'm
you
just going to
go.
keep doing as much as I can, and then I'll have a whole life ahead of me.
There you go. There you go. Well,
So I
I
just
have my
constantly
gym.
make connections and meet people, and
That's
people
awesome.
are always going to need help. Unfortunately,
Yes,
this
yes,
disease.
yes.
Someday I think there's going to be a magic bullet.
I hope so.
I really think,
I really think there's a magic bullet, but we won't go there.
yeah.
I believe there is,
I
but
know, I know what you're thinking. I
yeah,
know,
and my husband's
I
big
know.
on that. But he believes that too. But like I
Yeah,
tell a lot of my my any cancer out there, family, brothers and sisters, they always ask me, did I do the cannabis oil? I said I sure did. My husband made me
yeah,
do it, and he put it in everything. And he tells people he thinks that helped out a lot. And so I did the cannabis oil with the THC when I was going through chemo. Now I just do the CBD oil.
yeah. And is
Yeah.
that
So
for pain?
no, he just believed that it was going to kill the cancer, and so he gave it to
Okay.
me like crazy. And so we were talking about it today. He goes,
Yeah,
"That's what for." So you got my dog's barking in the background.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
So for um, well, he believes that the THC, just the pure cannabis oil, is good for killing cancer in the tumor. So he gave that to me. He tells people, I think because of that, I'm considered NED, which is no evidence of disease, and I've been NED for 4 years. Yeah, 4 years now.
Wow,
So
that's
he,
great.
yeah, yeah, it hasn't.
That is great.
I haven't had reoccurrence. So he tells people, yep, it was a THC, it was the cannabis oil. So he's a big believer in that.
Hey, there's a lot of research that points in that direction.
Yeah,
There is. I mean,
yeah,
it's not. You have to go looking for it though. It
yeah.
doesn't come to you
Right,
because it's
right,
it's been taboo for so long.
right.
But yeah,
Exactly.
well, I'm glad that you found relief.
Yes, yes,
That is
yes.
fantastic. 4 years, that's good.
Yeah. Well,
Just the beginning.
yeah. Well, 4 years being considered NED.
Yeah,
My anniversary will be this November. Will be 5 years. My cancer anniversary
since it began.
since it began, since I was diagnosed.
Okay.
It'll be
So yeah,
no
2014, you said, right?
2014.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So November 2014 is when I was diagnosed. Yeah. So it's going on 5 years, and my sister's taking me. Not in November, but in October. My sister and her husband are taking me and my husband to Hawaii to celebrate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's
So
a
you do know
blessing.
how to,
Yeah.
to
Oh yeah.
enjoy your life.
Oh, I do. And that's my thing is traveling. My husband knows
Yeah.
it. Travel, travel,
Yeah.
travel. If every month, I think last year every month I was somewhere, and this year's been kind of like that too. Like this month and next month,
Great.
and then I have 2 trips. Wait, do I have? Oh, I have 2 trips in August, and then September I'm not sure yet, and then October is Hawaii, and then November, December I
Wow.
might just relax. I
Oh,
don't know. If something comes up, then maybe I'll leave in November. I don't
wow.
travel in December. I stay home in December. But
Yeah.
if something comes up November, I'll pack my bags and leave too. I'm all
Good
yeah.
for you.
If I have the
That's good.
chance, I'm gone. I'm out of here. Yeah.
That I'm kind of a big fan of that now too, but I want to like climb. I want to climb mountains.
Yeah.
That's what I like
Oh,
to do. So we went
that'd
out
be
west
awesome.
last August. I
Uh-huh.
loved it. Went to the national
Yes.
parks. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. It's
I've got
yeah.
a lot more to do of that.
And you will.
Oh
And
yeah,
you will.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any word of advice for our viewers, our cancer brothers and sisters out there? Because you have an amazing story. So give
Boy,
people
what
that are
one would I
watching that
select?
might not give people that are watching that might not have that hope or are struggling, or just give them some word of
Well,
encouragement.
I'll tell you, the biggest thing, if you feel like you're hopeless, definitely look for survivors of your illness because that is a game changer. I mean,
Yes.
I couldn't find anything positive And then I found and talked to somebody that was a survivor. And then I'm like, oh, if it's possible, I'm going to do that.
Yes.
I kind of thought I might do it anyway, but I was a little, that was, I read those articles for 2 days and then I stopped. I couldn't read it anymore. Definitely get together with other survivors of your illness, whatever it is, because that's the biggest help. And you can help each other navigate, because healthcare is difficult to navigate. And you just, for me, I had a lot of faith that I was going to get well and that there was this reason for it all.
Yes.
And that changes everything. Because a lot of bad things happen, even though I was on an up, I was climbing, you get knocked down over and over. And over, I just said, okay, this is what's supposed to happen.
Yes.
That helped me tremendously. I talked to people that they're kind of falling apart, which is understandable. But they don't have that same idea. I don't know where I got that, but I just always had it.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot, just thinking, I'm going to get through this. And then I did everything I could. Staying in motion, I think, is the drinking water, I would say, and staying in motion are the two most important things you can do. If you sit down, all you can do is think about your pain, your nausea, and your dizziness, and all the things that are happening to you. If you're in motion, those things kind of at least go to the back burner.
Yes.
It's really important. And you've got to advocate for yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Or have someone with you that can advocate. If you're very sick, there were times where I couldn't advocate for myself. My wife did it. Without her, I'd call her my pit bull. She went after it and she got what I needed. You have to have an advocate or advocate for yourself. It's a hard job, but the thing I tell people is you have one life, as far as we know. You got to preserve it. It's up to you to preserve it. It's your responsibility, and that means getting the best treatment you can get. And if it means inconvenience, going to a major center far away, do that. It seems inconvenient, but we did it with small children. My wife, she pulled it off, and now I'm meeting people that do it all the time. There are ways to get free stays and free flights. I know people that they've gotten, like Airbnb has free rooms for people being treated far away from home, for their caregivers, for them. There's things available. You've got to look. You've got to dig in and look for stuff. Always, when you're in a hospital, if you're inpatient, you're having problems, ask for a social worker. They're miracle workers. They will get answers for you. They will make things happen for you. They're like directors. So there's always ways you can get help. You just got to advocate for yourself. A lot of times you have to ask a lot of questions and write things down. Keep a journal. Write things down so you kind of know what's going on with your treatments and everything. Journaling was a big thing when I was really sick.
Yeah.
For sure. To remember everything.
Right.
But definitely there's always hope. 12 to 18 months, that didn't sit well with me. I was 42 when I was reading those articles. I just didn't feel like there was any way that was possible.
Right.
And I know no one does, even if you're 84. No one is ready. Everybody wants to survive, and there's hope for everybody.
Yes. That's
Definitely.
great.
The other thing I would say, talk to your doctors and nurses, talk to your team about what your goals are. What is possible, what these treatments that you have, what is possible with those treatments, and what are you willing to sacrifice for your goal? Because they might say, oh yeah, we can cure you, but we're going to destroy your quality of life, for instance. You could say, well, no, I'm not, no, I want to be able to function. I have to babysit my grandkids, or I have to go to work, or whatever. And you can modify your plan. You have to be able to have a conversation. Talk about your goals. I think that's really, really important.
Yes.
At any age, whatever your goals are, let them know what your goals are so that they can match a treatment to what your goals are.
Yes.
Because, the last thing you want to do is destroy your quality of life.
Right.
Because that is your life.
Right,
So
exactly.
I think that.
That's
think that's
great
all.
advice. Thank you, Scott. That was awesome. Oh my God, that was awesome. I'm just like, yeah, yeah, you're right. Praise God. Oh my goodness, that was awesome. One of my lung cancer sister, Basha, she goes, she asked the question, how do I find a social worker for yourself? She goes, I have no luck in the hospital, and she still doesn't.
Wow. There's always
Yeah.
a social worker affiliated with the hospital.
Okay.
So, wow. So if you ask your nurses, nurses
There
are the
you go.
greatest. They
Yes.
will get you a social worker.
Yes.
Nurses are your best friends.
Yeah.
Nurses,
Yeah.
MPs, PAs, there's a whole bunch of people. They're your best friends. Doctors, I love them. They saved my life numerous times. But you don't have a lot of face time with them. Those nurses are on the front lines. They're there to help you. And
Mm-hmm.
boy, if you're having a problem, they will get you a social worker. I
Yeah.
haven't heard of a case like that. If I couldn't, like, depending, there's got to be a society. Like for me, if I couldn't, if
Mm-hmm.
I was at a dead end, I'd call the Leukemia Lymphoma Society or American Cancer Society, and they would hook me up with a social worker.
There you go.
I am
That,
absolutely sure of it.
yeah, that's great
Yeah,
advice. So, Basha, yeah, either do like he said, talk to the nurses, or hey, contact Longevity. You went to the first Hope Summit. There's Longevity. There's Lung Cancer Foundation of America. There's Lung Cancer Alliance. There's a is it Lung Cancer Association that's part of American Cancer. So contact them, but start with the nurses and work your way that way. That's great, great advice, Scott. Thank you so much.
yeah.
I do appreciate it. So if any of you guys out there have any questions for Scott, or you want to reach out to him, and maybe later in the future something comes up, because he's very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff, and it doesn't have to be lymphoma or breast cancer, lung cancer. It could be any cancer. Cancer is cancer, people, and that's
Yeah,
it. Cancer is cancer, and we're all in it
yeah.
together. We all understand each other. We know how we feel. We all have been there. Hopes, fear, doubt, happiness, sadness, depression.
All that.
I've been through all that. He has, all of you
Yeah.
guys have. So even if it's not cancer, maybe you're dealing with something, and you like what Scott said, and you're like, I think Scott can help me. Reach out to him. Um,
I'm
look for
on
him.
Facebook. You can message me anytime.
Yes, message
I
him.
always
If
respond.
you, Scott Baker, if you can't find him, just go on my friend list. I think you can see my friends, or maybe I have it where you can't see. If not, reach out to me, and then I'll hook you up with him. But he's very, very knowledgeable, guys. So, um, thank you so much, Scott. I truly
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Your story is
I'm
amazing.
certainly glad to finally meet you and talk to you.
I know, me too. And
And I
I'm
met your little
gonna,
granddaughter.
yes, yes. And I hope and pray that we get to meet in person one day.
I hope so. I want to
Yes,
bump
I'm
into you
all,
down there in Washington or
there you
somewhere in the
go.
country.
Somewhere. If not, I mean, I'm always traveling. I might be in neck of the woods and give you a call. Hey, Scott, what you doing?
Absolutely. If you're up my way, I'll come
You're in
see you.
you're in the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in near Albany, New York,
Okay.
like
Well, I love
about
New
two and a
York.
half hours north of New York City.
Okay. Well, I love New York, so I love going out there. So I just might have to take a trip and tell my husband, "Come on, we're gonna go meet Scott." He's like, "Who? Where are we going now?"
I meet people in the city all the time. If I
Yes.
know they're there, I'll go find them. I'll
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah,
Oh my
we're on
goodness,
a
yes.
similar mission, you and I.
Awesome, awesome. And one of my
All
lung
right.
cancer sister, Barbara, she's watching. She lives in, I think, Long Island. So, Barb,
Okay.
another New Yorker, another brother in the house, and
Yeah.
Alyssa, but I don't think Alyssa's watching. She'll probably catch up later. So, my New York people, Amanda, Corey, if you guys are watching, another New York brother in the house. So, reach out to him. And thank you, Scott.
Anytime.
G- God bless you, and you have a great night, and we will be
All
keeping in
right.
touch.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome,
Have a good
sweetheart.
night.
Bye. Okay,
Bye
love
bye.
you. Bye bye.
Love you too.